Hey guys, it's Mr. Schmidt here, and in this video we're going to start a new unit on supply and demand, beginning with this video on the law of demand. Before we get started, I just want to emphasize to you how important this unit is. Pretty much the bulk of what we are going to do, the remaining of the year in this course, is look at markets, and we'll talk about what a market is in a second. And understanding supply and demand is going to be essential for your ability to succeed in this course. So please take these videos seriously. So first of all, let's talk about what a market is. The market is the interaction of buyers and sellers. So anywhere a buyer and a seller is interacting, that's a market. It could be in a physical location, it could be in a virtual location like on Amazon. Anywhere that's happening is a market. And so the interaction of these buyers and sellers, we can model that using the concepts of supply, which would represent sellers, and demand, which would represent buyers. And so we can use a graph of supply and demand to show how these interactions take place and how changes in markets can impact buyers and sellers. And so before we do that, I do want to go over several definitions here. And so there's a lot of information on this page here. So feel free to pause the video, jot everything down, draw the chart, and then play the video again, and you can hear me talk about this stuff. So let's start with the table. So this table is what we call a demand schedule. And remember, from the previous slide, demand represents the actions of buyers. So we're going to focus on buyers for the first part of this unit, and then we'll come back to sellers, and then we'll put it all together. So this is a demand schedule. So what does a demand schedule tell us? Well, it tells us, okay, what are the prices of a particular good? So in this case, $1 to $5. And then how much quantity demanded does each of these three buyers in the market? We're assuming this market only has three buyers, Kathy, Carol, and Carl. And how much are they willing and able to buy at each of these prices? So when we talk about demand, what we mean is how much all people in the market are willing, able to buy at all prices. Okay? When we say demand, we also really mean market demand, right? So by willing and able, I mean you have to be willing to buy it, right? I actually want to buy it, right? If there's something in a store and I want nothing to do with it, I don't have demand for it. And you have to be able, you actually have to have the money to buy it, right? Like I would love to buy a yacht, I'm willing to buy a yacht, but I don't have the money to buy a yacht, so I don't have demand for the yacht, okay? So quantity demanded is a specific quantity. Notice that word here, specific quantity that is willing and able to be bought at a specific price. So for example here, this 20 would be a quantity demanded because it's a specific quantity, 20, that Kathy is willing and able to buy at a specific price, $1. Again, this 3 would also be a quantity demanded. It's a specific quantity that Carol is willing and able to buy, 3, at a specific price, $3. Okay? In fact, everything in the Kathy, Carol, and Carl columns are all quantities demanded. They're specific quantities that person is willing and able to buy at a specific price. The only column that's not a quantity demanded is this last column here, market demand, okay? Market demand is the sum of individual demand. So this is individual demand, this would be individual demand, and so would this. All three of those would be individual demand, okay? Individual demand is how much one person is willing and able to buy in that market. Market demand is how much all buyers are willing and able to buy in a market at a given price. So the way we calculate that is, and again, there's a lot of colors going on here, we add up all the individual demands together. So if you look at that first row, the market demand at $1 is 35. How did we get 35? Well, we added Kathy's 20 plus Carol's 5 plus Carl's 10 to get 35 units. So this means that the market demand for this good at a price of $1 is 35 units because we added up the individual demands of Kathy, Carol, and Carl together. Those individual demands are specific quantities at specific prices. They're quantities demanded. So different words mean the same thing here, okay? But the takeaways from this chart, okay, and there's one more I haven't talked about yet. So if it's an individual person, the amount that they're willing and able to buy at a specific price, that is a quantity demanded. If we add up all the quantities demanded at an individual at a price, say $1, that is market demand. Okay, the sum of all individual demand is market demand. Okay, and then we notice here that as we increase the price of the good, people are buying less and less. Right? If you look at we go from $1 to $5, Kathy's demand falls from 20 all the way to 10, and this is what we call the law of demand. It's the idea that as the price of a good increases, the quantity demanded, the specific quantity at a specific price, begins to fall, right? And that makes logical sense, right? As something becomes more and more expensive, people tend to buy less of it, right? Because it's more expensive. So that's the idea of the law of demand. As the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases. The last thing I want to do in this video is draw a demand curve, which is a way to model the law of demand. So let's go ahead and do that really quickly. Just like with the PPC in the last unit, all graphs start with the positive axes of the coordinate plane. On the x-axis for this unit and for, well, a lot of units, but this one in particular, we're going to put quantity. And we represent that with a Q. So you can call it just Q as long as you know it stands for quantity. And then on the y-axis, we put price, which you can abbreviate with a P. And then we need to draw the demand curve. So how would it look? Well, it's going to look something like that. And then we call this demand, which you can abbreviate with a D. And so what do we notice here? We notice as the price increases, my quantity demanded falls. If I pick a specific point here, and we call this A is a quantity demanded. It is a specific quantity that is demanded in this market at a specific price. So we might say, okay, this is 3 units of the good at a price of $7. That's a quantity demanded, okay? If we take all the quantity demandeds and add them together, okay, then we get a demand curve. And if you notice, if I change the price of a good, if I go to B here and I say, okay, the price is now $5, notice what happens. If I lower the price, I move along the demand curve to a new quantity demanded. A point on a demand curve is a quantity demanded. Just like a single cell in this chart, except for the market demand column, is a quantity demanded, right? And when we put all of those together, we get market demand, okay? Now, this could also be an individual demand curve, right? We could have just used the price column and Kathy's column to make an individual demand curve, or we could have used the price column and the market demand column to make a market demand curve. Unless a question specifies, we can assume this is a market demand curve, showing everyone's demand for a product at whatever price. So what are the key takeaways here from this video? The law of demand. As the price goes up, quantity demanded falls. Quantity demanded is a specific quantity people are willing and able to buy at a specific price. And if we change the price, we move along the demand curve and show a change in quantity demanded. After this next video, where we talk about other reasons why the demand curve is downward sloping, we'll look at shifting a demand curve, which would be a change in demand. So that's all for this video on the law of demand. Until next time, have a great day.